Here we are on the front of our Keystone Bullet. We're going to do a technical tutorial or a walkthrough like a technician would do on the data delivery, going over the components on your unit, how to use them, a few tips along the way. Yours may vary with the name brand component that's on here. You may have a power jack instead of a manual jack, stuff like that. You can find information on those components and more in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section on the Great American RV YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that stuff to our channel to help support what we do for you guys. So we're going to start in the front here. Of course, we have that manual ton jack. It is easily upgraded to a power ton jack if you want. 3 bolts, drop it in, run a wire over to your battery, and that's it. You're also going to have your 7-way plug here in the front. That 7-way plug is going to transfer all your lights from your towing vehicle over to the trailer. We're also going to have a battery charge line in here that's going to pull off the alternator of the vehicle to charge your battery when it's running. Lastly, we're going to have our brake control wire that pulls off of the brake controller, and it senses when you're hitting the brakes, it's going to activate the brakes on your trailer. Now, speaking of brakes, you're also going to have your breakaway cable. Your breakaway cable should be looped in or latched onto your receiver hitch itself where you hook your chains up. Never to the chains themselves or the hitch that's sticking out with the ball, any of that. It should be attached to the vehicle. That way, if something fails with the hitch and the chains and this trailer separates from the vehicle, this cable will pull, and it will pull the pin out of that breakaway box. That breakaway box then activates the brakes on our trailer and brings it to a safe stop. Now, this can only happen if we have a good solid 12-volt battery in there. If it's not charged up enough, those brakes will not activate, so it's important to maintain our battery regularly. Last thing we need to make sure we do is have that pin inserted into that box at all times. Otherwise, it will have your brakes activated. Behind all of that is our dual propane tanks right here. We also have a dual propane regulator to operate them. That dual propane regulator is going to have a selector switch on it. You're going to want to have both of your tanks on. You choose which tank you want to be your primary, turn that selector switch over to that one, and it's going to pull out of that tank only until it runs dry. When it runs dry, you generally get a red indicator on the regulator, and it will automatically start pulling off of that secondary tank, so you're not losing propane in the middle of cooking or showering or anything like that. Now you can go over to that selector switch, swap to that second tank, and that will now be your primary. You can get your other one refilled or replaced. Behind all of that is our battery storage center where we can go ahead and put a couple batteries in. We're also going to have our battery disconnect back here. Battery disconnect is important whenever we are storing our unit. If we're storing it unplugged, we want to leave that battery disconnect off so it's not pulling voltage off of that battery. You have some juice left whenever you go to pick that unit back up. Now, if you're storing it plugged in or using your camper, anything of that nature, anytime you have it plugged in, you want that battery disconnect on. It literally disconnects the battery off of your system so you can save voltage and stuff won't be pulling off of it at the time. You're also going to find a couple of resettable, you're also going to find a couple of automatic resettable 12-volt breakers back here. That means that if they are amping out, they're going to get hot, they're automatically going to reset on their own in the event that something is causing a problem like your slide outs or something like that. So in the event that you have that issue, let it sit for a second, see if you hear it click and reset, and try that slide out again. We have more videos that go over our slide outs. Here on the driver's side of your unit, you have pass-through storage access right here. You're also going to have pre-wiring for your charge controller if you want to upgrade with a solar system. The wiring is already ran. You're also pre-wired for an inverter. An inverter changes 12 volts to 110 to run small appliances. In the event you don't have a 110 hookup or 220 hookup at wherever you're at, you're dry camping, boondocking, something like that, you can use that inverter system to run some of your 110 stuff. Beside it, we have our cable hookup right here. This is if you have part cable, you run that over to there. That'll go out to all your TVs. Below that, we have our fresh water connection and our city water connection. Now, fresh water, we pull that cap off, we take a water hose, we stick it in there, and we can go ahead and fill it up. This is for our onboard fresh tank. We would fill that up and use that once again if we are boondocking or something like that. We kick on our water pump, and that will provide water to all of our fixtures on the interior of our unit. Now, there is a way to drain that water. We'll find that under our unit, that blue line sticking out. We'll go over the location of that shortly. and we want to drain that water out. If it becomes stagnant, anything like that, drain it out if we're not using it so it doesn't become stagnant. Keep in mind also, the more water you put in your unit, the more weight you're adding to your unit. So only put what you may think you need, maybe a little bit more, and so on. Now, if we do have that city water connection at the campsite where we're going, we'll take that water hose, hook it up to our city water connection right here, turn it on. That'll supply water to all of our fixtures and won't have the need for the onboard water storage. Next to that is our tankless water heater by Gerard, giving you endless hot water. We'll go over the operation of that on the inside. It does need 12 volts and propane to operate. The location for your freshwater drain is going to be right in front of your front stabilizer jacks, that blue line sticking out with the valve. We're going to notice on our slide out, we do have cables on the side that identifies it as a cable slide. We have a great video that helps you out with cable slides in the event that it is not working. You can refer to our HAPS Helpful Hacks section. Under our slide out, you'll see our gray water port. That is a second tank in there, and we'll go over a little bit more information about our gray tanks in the rear when we get to our main sewage port. All right, so just past our slide out, we have another port right here. We talked about our gray tank port right there. Under the slide out, we can go ahead and get a hose, 2 hoses, hook it to a Y pipe, run it to our sewage station. Now here we have 2 handles. We have a gray tank and black tank. Front one is gray tank. Those gray tank handles can be opened up. That's going to allow the sewage and water to come out. You need to have that hose hooked up and going to that port in order to do that to the dump station or at the campsite. Now, if we have a hookup at the campsite, we can run that hose. We can leave our gray tanks open all the time. That's sink water and shower water. It's fairly clean water, no real solids are going in there. Our black tank, however, is coming from our toilet. That is going to have solids and sewage in there. We want to keep that valve closed all the time until we're ready to dump. If we don't, we're not going to have water in that tank. The solids that get in there are going to dry up. You're going to make a poop pyramid. It's disgusting. You don't want to mess with it, right? So we want to keep that black tank closed all the time. And when we are ready to dump, of course, we need our hose hooked up. We pull that black tank valve and empty out our system. Now, while we're doing that, we'll have a black tank flush located on the other side. We'll show you that connection. We hook a water hose up to, turn it on. That's going to lead to a jet port on the other side of this tank. That's going to help push any debris, water, sewage, everything else down to this valve and drain it out of our system. When we're satisfied with flushing our tank, we need to shut that black tank flush off. Come over here, close the valve, go on the inside of our unit, and hold down our pedal on our toilet and fill it with several gallons of fresh, clean water. Then we want to add our chemicals in there. You're still going to have a little bit of debris stuck to the walls no matter what you do. While you're traveling down the road, that water is going to help knock all that stuff down. Your chemicals are going to help degrade it, and it'll help keep that tank nice and clean and smell nice as well. Now, that's going to be how your owner's manual suggests to do it. We do have pro tips on how to flush out your black tank system in our HAPS Helpful Hacks section. I suggest you go check that out too. On the back of our unit, we are prepped for that Keystone camera ready system. That means the power is already ran if you want to upgrade and add a backup camera on your unit so you can see behind you while you're backing up or traveling down the road. We're also going to have a sewer hose port right here. We can unscrew that cap, put our sewer hose in there for storage, and on this unit we have our 50 amp service. That is a twist lock plug. We'll put it in, turn it to the right to lock it in. We'll also have a little ring on there we want to tighten up so that plug can't just pop out. Kids run around tripping on wires, so on and so forth. It won't unplug it out of your unit. We want to make sure that we plug in this end first and then plug in at our shore power, reduce any arcing or sparking whenever we plug that in. Also want to make sure our AC systems are off so we don't cause any surges to that AC. Now, we don't have factory supplied access on this unit to our roof, so meaning we don't have a factory ladder, but we do have obviously a walkable roof, and the wall is prepped if you want to add a ladder. Regardless, we need to find a way to gain access to our roof, so whether it's an A-frame ladder, adding a factory ladder on there, whatever the case, we need to gain access to our roof. It's very important because in your manual it says every 60 to 90 days you need to check your sealant. That includes all of your roof sealant, your trim sealant around your lights, windows, so on and so forth, to look for any cracking, peeling, or deterioration of that sealant. We want to clean it, reseal over it. We'll also want to wash that roof at least twice a year, and we'll also want to inspect the rubber after trips to make sure no low-lying tree limbs poked any holes in it. These are very important points, and we want to make sure we maintain our unit properly. It's the #1 most neglected thing when people buy campers is taking care of your sealant and making sure there's no water leaks. Whether you keep it under a cover or not, you need to check your sealant every 60 to 90 days. Manufacturers after the first 90 days generally aren't going to participate in any water leaks if the unit is not maintained. All right, passenger side, we have our front storage compartment access right here just inside on the wall there. We have two switches. That is for our electric stabilizer jacks here in the front and the rear. Now the way we want to use those is they are stabilizers only, not leveling systems, so we don't want to use it to try to level out our unit. They are not weight bearing for this kind of weight. They're to put on the ground and stabilize your unit, add a little bit of weight to them. We level our unit by using stacker blocks. We can purchase at any one of our camping stores, stack them up, level our unit from left to right as we're backing up. We put them under our tires and then use our ton jack to level it from front to back. Then we put our stabilizers down. If you put too much weight on them, bend them, break them, strip the motor out, anything like that, manufacturers aren't going to cover that kind of damage because that's not how we're supposed to use them. Now, once again, they are 12 volt operated. If you run to an issue with them, want to disconnect those 12 volts, there's an override on the other side where we stick a jack handle into, and we can manually crank those jacks up or down to get us out of a jam. All right, talking about our awnings, they are 12 volt powered as well as our awning lights. Need battery power once again to operate these. We'll flip a switch, run them out. They are mainly a sunshade. They can protect us from a little rain. When it does rain, or even in general, we want to go ahead and tilt it because we may get dew on our awning, we may get AC runoff from our condensation up there, get on our awning. We want to make sure that water doesn't pool up there. So in order to do that, we have two little pins right here. We click those pins in, and then we can adjust our arm and pitch it down. So we want one side leaning, whether it be the front or the back. Both awning arms work the same way. Now, once it does that, you're pretty well good. You want to go ahead and straighten your awning back up whenever you roll it back in for storage. Biggest thing we need to remember, if you're leaving your campsite for an extended period of time, they got a bad storm rolling in, high winds, anything like that, roll your awning in. It will become a parachute. It will collapse even if it's pitched with enough rain. All those things, we want to make sure that we are taking care of it. We don't end up with that insurance claim. Take my advice, roll it in whenever you're not using it for sure. Moving down our unit, under our awning, we'll see a vent over here. This is for our range hood over our 3-burner stove. We want to make sure that we have these tabs open on the outside so that air can actually ventilate out when we use it. We can close those tabs when we store our unit, keeping insects from building any nests. Of course, we have our TV backer mounting location right there, our outside cable antenna hookup for our TV, as well as our 110 outlet. The 110 outlet is GFCI protected. We'll talk a little bit more about GFCI when we get to the main one on the inside in the event that these aren't operating. Here we have the exhaust for our Suburban furnace. It's going to be gas operated, and of course it'll need 12 volts to work. Go over the operation of that when we get to the inside. Down here we're also going to see a red and blue line sticking out. That red and blue line is your low point drains for your unit. We would use these when we winterize our unit, want to put antifreeze in it, or just drain the water out of our systems. We would go there. You can find more winterization tips in your owner's manual, as well as a video on Hap's Helpful Hacks. Moving down the side of our unit, this is our black tank flush right there, just outside of our awning, and that is where we'll hook that hose up to flush our black tank. On the rear of our unit, more outdoor storage right here, and we also have another set of 12 volt stabilizer jacks. Push of a button, we can run those down and stabilize our unit. We'll notice on our entry door, we are going to have some resistance on that door. That's our friction controlled hinges right there. That is helping that door from being slammed shut or open due to wind or kids, whatever the case may be. We're also going to have our step system right here, real easy. Flip it up once, twice, and then we go ahead and lock them in. Now, you're going to want to go ahead and add silicone spray on these hinges and stuff every now and again. Keep them lubricated. I don't suggest WD-40. That attracts dust. Everything dirt will stick to it and become more of a problem. So silicone spray is the best bet. If we see any paint chipping, we want to go ahead and paint over that so we don't have any rust. All right, when we walk into our unit at the entry door, we have our control center right here. It is going to be a generic panel, so you'll see multiple tanks that you may not have on your unit. And if we push on those buttons right there, this bar right here is going to light up and let us know the value of those tanks. We have our battery, our fresh tank, our black tanks, and our gray tanks there. Our battery, obviously that's that 12 volt battery in the front. Our fresh tank is going to be that onboard water storage, and of course our black and gray tanks. Now here we have our 12 volt water pump that's going to pull from that fresh tank right there and supply water to our fixtures. If we do have a city water connection, we can leave that off. We need to understand this is an on-demand pump, so if we turn our water on, we're going to hear that pump vibrating in there, and that's perfectly fine. When we shut our water off a couple seconds after that, that pump should shut off. If we hear that pump continuously running and we know that we have all of our fixtures off, we want to double check and make sure that our fresh tank isn't empty. If it is, shut that water pump off so it doesn't burn it up. And if that's not the case, we want to check and see if we don't have any leaks in our system. That water is continuously running out. That's why that pump is running. So investigate that as well. We have our porch lights, which is our outside awning light, and our ceiling lights for our interior. We also have our slide room in and out and our awning in and out. All of this stuff is all 12 volt operated, so you would need battery power to operate it. We'll show you where the 12 volt fuses are here shortly. Also, right by our doorway, we have our COLP detector. We have a little green light on here letting us know it's powered up. It is wired into our battery system. It's going to let you know if any CO or LP gas is in our unit. We want to go ahead and evacuate if we hear that alarm going off. We want to test that alarm before trips, make sure that it is working properly. Also know there is an expiration date either on the front or the back of it, letting you know when it expires and needs to be replaced on your unit. You're also going to have a smoke detector in here, powered by a 9-volt battery. Test the audible alarm on it as well. And we have our Furrion thermostat right there for AC and heat. We'll go over the operation of that right now. We'll start with our cool option first. Our cool will cool the air throughout our unit. We, of course, set our thermostat to whatever point we want it to be. And we have our fan speed options. We have low and high. For low and high, that fan will run all the time. Now, whenever we want that fan to cut off, whenever the compressor cuts off, much like we likely do at home, we have it on auto. That system will shut off and on with the compressor. Our next mode is our heat mode. Our heat mode activates our gas-powered furnace on our unit. We choose our set point, and our heater will come on whenever necessary. There is fan speeds on here, but it does not change the fan speed on that furnace. It is a single fan speed on there controlled by the furnace board. Our next mode is our fan mode. Our fan mode simply circulates air throughout our unit without cooling it or anything. This will come out of our rooftop air, and we can just change from high to low to control that fan speed if we wish. That fan will stay on the entire time when we have it in our fan mode. Our last mode is our dry mode. Our dry mode is like a dehumidifier. We can choose our set point, and it will cool our unit down to that set point, and it will continue to cool past that, but alternate every 6 to 10 minutes off and on. That way it doesn't drop that temperature too low and freeze you out of the unit, but it still dries the air in your unit. Another thing to note with our furnace is that the air is going to come out of the vents on the floor. It's not going to come out of the rooftop air. Your only rooftop air is going to be your fan and your cool and your dry. Your heat will come out of those floor vents from the furnace. Now for your ceiling assembly on your AC, you'll notice a valve right here. This is a quick dump valve. We open it up, air is forced out of that valve right there. If we close it, air will start coming out of our ceiling ducts up here. So know the difference between those two. If we want air to flow throughout our entire unit, we need it closed. That quick dump, if we want to cool this area off quickly, we can go ahead and open that up. We pull these two tabs down right here, and that will gain access to our filter that we need to clean on a regular basis, so we're not restricting air to our AC. Not much to go over in our bedroom storage. Under our bed, we do have the doors that slide closed for privacy, our backer for our TV, our antenna hookup, and our 110 outlet. In our kitchen, just above our countertops here, we do have our TV entertainment center. Above it, you're going to see your coax hookup for your cable antenna. Now on that coax hookup, there's going to be a little button, and if you turn it off and on, it'll turn the little light off and on. Well, that little light means that you have antenna boost. Antenna boost will, whenever you're on antenna and scanning for those channels, you want that light on. The antenna boost will amplify that signal and help pick up more channels in your area. When we're hooked up to cable, we want to make sure that light is off so we don't scramble the channels coming in from the campground. Behind me, we have our 110 microwave, our hood range vent that we talked about outside. We need to have those tabs open and open that vent so it can actually ventilate out. And below it, we have our cooktop. Our Furrion cooktop has a glass topper to it. It needs to be down in travel. It can be down for more counter space. When we cook, we need to have it up. We have our propane on. We want to pick our designated burner, turn it to that flame icon, and then we hit our striker right here. and then we light our oven. Now once it lights, we're good to go. We turn it to high, low, whatever we want, and cook. Shut it off whenever it's done. You'll notice the little red ring around here that lights up. That's to indicate that gas is flowing out of that system. So it's especially good with kids running around and let you know that it's turned on. Flip a little switch right here, they all turn blue. It'll still turn red whenever you kick it on. Flip it down, it will light up our oven down there at the bottom. Now before we move to our oven, we'll talk about our propane for a second. It's very common when you store your unit, you turn your propane tanks off. Whenever you pull it out, you're going to end up with air in your system. This can also happen if we change our tanks out. We're going to end up with air in our system. Easy way to remediate that problem is we come over here and we just light our stove. Turn our tanks on, come over here, light it up. It's going to take a couple seconds. It's not going to light right away. So keep hitting that striker till our stovetop lights. Let it run for about 60 seconds. And we more than likely bled most, if not all, of that air out of our system. Want to do that before we operate things like our furnace or our water heater so you don't go into faults due to air in the system. This is the best way to go ahead and take care of that issue. Now for our oven, really simple to use. We come over to the right here. We turn it once again to that flame icon, but we need to keep pushing down on that knob so that pilot will keep emitting gas. We turn our striker until that pilot lights. Keep holding it down for another 15-20 seconds. Let it warm up that thermocouple, and then we can let off and turn to our temperature, and that burner tube should light up. If it doesn't, go back, light it up again, hold it down for a little bit longer, and give it another shot. That thermocouple might not have been warm enough in order for that tube to go ahead and light up. Last thing in our kitchen is going to be our fridge. Now this one is an Everchill. All of them are going to be 12-volt fridges. They're all going to have a little knob up at the top to go from cold to colder, and you're all going to have a freezer in them. Generally, they may or may not have a temperature control in that freezer as well. One thing they do not have is a drain tube. So that means whenever you go ahead and shut your unit down, it is going to defrost. That water is going to stay in the tray of that freezer or refrigerator due to condensation or ice melting, whatever the case may be. You need to open that fridge, air it out, dry all the water out of there before you store your unit. This reduces the risk for mold and mildew, and if there's standing water in there, it is going to leak out and damage your wood components around that fridge. Manufacturers aren't going to cover that type of repair. So make sure we're defrosting and maintaining our fridge properly. It is considered customer maintenance. We're also going to have that little travel latch right there. We flip it out, keep our doors from flying open while we're traveling down the road. Down below our oven, we're going to notice our 110 breaker and 12-volt outlets, all labeled so we know what they operate. In the event we have an issue with either one of these systems, we can come over here and figure out what is operating them if we have a 12-volt fuse blown or our breaker is tripped. You're going to notice a little grill here at the bottom. That is our ventilation for our converter system. May hear a little fan running down there every now and again when we're plugged in. That converter system changes 110 voltage to 12 volt. It's essentially a battery charger that's going to charge your battery when you're plugged into shore power. A little fan in there is going to run just to keep it cool. In our slide out, we have our couch that can fold down into bed. Lift that up, pull it forward, fold down for more sleeping options. We can also turn our dinette into a bed as well. Removing the two poles down below, putting the table on the bumpers, taking our cushions, putting them on top. Here are in our bathroom, pretty cut and dry, hot and cold on your shower. We do have a little switch up here on our shower head. That is going to be for whenever we are dry camping. If we want to try to conserve the amount of water we're using out of our fresh tank or the amount of water we're putting in our gray tank system, because we don't have a dump, we don't have water, we can go ahead and use that little on-off button on our shower head, and we don't have to worry about trying to find that sweet spot in the hot and cold whenever we're trying to rinse off or anything like that, and conserve the amount of water we're putting into that system. You don't want to use it, you don't have to. If you have city water connection and a drain port, you don't need to. Over here we have our toilet operated by the little pedal right there on the side. That's going to go ahead and flush everything down. We're only putting 4 things in this toilet. Number 1, which is liquids. Number 2, which is solids. Number 3, which is RV toilet paper only, because it will not degrade if we don't get the right toilet paper. Will cause plumbing issues. And number 4 are chemicals to help degrade the sewage that's in there, as well as help it keep smelling nice. So for our toilet, we do our number 1. We can hit that pedal, flush it down, no problem. Number 2, we have solids. We want to go ahead and barely depress that pedal. Water will start flowing into that bowl right there without the valve open, and we want to fill that bowl to half to 3/4 of the way. That way we have enough water in there to flush those solids all the way down to our black tank. If we don't do that, we can cause some plumbing issues in there. Like I said, besides that, we're looking at RV toilet paper and chemicals. Nothing else should be put in that tank. Over here we have our GFCI outlet. This is the main outlet. In all of our wet locations, even outside, you're going to see a little white sticker that says GFCI protected. All of them are protected by this main outlet. In the event they are not working, you're going to come in here and probably see a red light on this outlet. If it is, you want to hit the reset button and see if that resets that system. Everything goes back to working. Now, two things mainly that can cause that system to trip is the outlets get wet, or we have too many appliances, griddles, coffee makers, so on and so forth, plugged into those outlets. Want to go ahead and unplug some of that stuff and then try to come reset it. If not, it will reset again right away. Once again, also making sure that those outlets aren't wet too. One more thing before we go to our Girard tankless water heater. I forgot we do have a fan here in our bathroom. Want to go ahead and turn that on when we take showers. That way we are ventilating the heat and humidity out of here and reduce the risk for mold and mildew. Lastly, we'll talk about our Girard tankless water heater right now. Here we have our Girard tankless water heater control. We have our Celsius Fahrenheit button right here at the top left to swap between the two types of temperature. We have our on-off button, and we have our up and down that will change the temperature that we have set for our unit. Now, once we initiate our hot water, you'll see a couple of things happen. You'll see our temperature up here change to our output temperature, which is the temperature of the water coming out of our tankless water heater system. We'll also see a shower head icon at the bottom right. That shows that water is in use. And then we'll see our fan icon on the bottom left, lets us know that our tankless water heater system is initiating. Once we see the flame that pops up in the middle of our unit, that means that our system is actually heating that water, and we'll see that temperature begin to increase. Now, these systems only run for 20 minutes before going into a shutoff mode. In the event that you're still using hot water after that point, just turn the hot water off and turn it back on, and it will reinitiate and begin to heat water again. Not much to go over in our bunkhouse area. We do have our rear AC system in here controlled on the ceiling assembly itself. It does have an option for cold to colder, as well as our fan option, which will be just moving the air. It's not going to cool it. And then we turn to the cool option, which will actually kick that compressor on and cool the air. It does have the heat option on there. If you upgrade and have that heating element installed in there, you can go ahead and have heat coming out of that AC. Besides that, heat is only going to come out of the floor vents in your unit, either through the cabinetry or the actual vents in the ground. It's also going to have that filter up here. We need to go ahead and change that out, and a quick dump valve as well to allow that air to flow straight out or through our ceiling ducts right here. Lastly, we have our TV backer as well as our antenna and 110 outlet for that TV.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores, where we bring the how-to you.